Hey, Avanti Tribe, Dave Amano. Just want to do a call out to our sponsors for the podcast. Got some great ones. Paychecks. You probably heard of Paychecks for your payroll services, and they're great for that for small business. Really incredible. They also do a ton of other services like HR. They are focused on being your small business partner. So Paychecks. And by the way, go to my website, AvantiEntrepreneurGroup.com. Click on partners. Every partner is there, and the only reason they can be on there besides being a sponsor is they're also offering the Avanti Tribe a special deal. So AvantiEntrepreneurGroup.com, click on partners. So there's Paychecks. I also have another partner called Predictive ROI. Incredible partner. If you are thinking of doing your own podcast and want to explore that, Predictive ROI, once again, AvantiEntrepreneurGroup.com, click on partners. Another great partner that I use, Grasshopper. They are the entrepreneur's phone system. Want to get rid of your landline once and for all and run your business from your cell phone? Grasshopper. And last but not least, Avanti. We are sponsoring our own show, of course. If you want to learn more about becoming an Avanti member, starting an Avanti network chapter in your territory, in your region, and or just join the Avanti Entrepreneur Network. It's incredible for collaboration and communication. And if you want to surround yourself with other entrepreneurs to grow and learn together with like-minded people, check out, once again, AvantiEntrepreneurGroup.com. All the information is right there. Thank you so much. And now, on to the show.
It's time to share secrets and insights from fellow entrepreneurs. If you're looking to grow or start a business and you're a game changer, then keep listening to Avanti Entrepreneur for great advice from your host, Dave Mamano, America's entrepreneur coach.
And here we go. Hamsa, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for having me.
I am super pumped to have you. Let me introduce you formally, and then we'll get as I said, we'll let the rubber hit the road. So, hello everybody, and welcome to the Avanti Entrepreneur Podcast and Show. I am Dave Milano, your host, and we are here to help you move forward, because that's what Avanti means in Italian. Move forward. We're here to help achievers and business owners and just movers and shakers and leaders grow to their next level. And the way I do that is I interview just rock star people like my wonderful guest today, Hamsa Daher. And and really the whole idea is to help everybody reach their potential. And I do this by interviewing people like Hamsa. So Hamsa, welcome to the show. Hamsa is, I want to say, an old friend. You're young, but I've known you for, I'll say, a few years now, right? And met you through our mutual friend, who I think we both are in love with, Rob Dubay. And Rob is from the new movement called Do Nothing, which we'll talk about. He's been on my podcast a few times. But Hamsa, you are currently the leader of Small Giants, the Small Giants community. Mm-hmm. And you have a great story because also you're not born in the U.S. You are from Iraq. Mm-hmm. And you and your family, I'll say not by choice, but maybe not by choice, came here. And want to talk a little bit about that. And then I just want to talk to you about what you've learned along your journey along the way, where you could share with the Avanti listeners to help them, grow to their next level of potential.
Yeah, sure.
So, and I want to make sure that everyone is getting your name correctly, because it's spelled Hamsa, right? Mm-hmm. But it's pronounced Hamsa.
Exactly. You got it. Perfect.
And and last name Daher. And is that Daher?
Daher. Yep.
Yeah, Daher. Because I've just always called you Hamsa. You're like Madonna. Hamsa, like I don't say your last name.
Hardly.
People say David and 25 people look, people say Hamsa and, you look, right? So. So, I really love the story of your journey. I heard it on the podcast that you did with Rob Dubay, the Do Nothing podcast. And I would love to let our listeners get a version of that story, because I always have an appreciation for people like you who have come to our country and have really, come from some great times, but also some struggles. And that's often why they left the country, their original country, and then really have grown to assimilate and appreciate America and a lot of times appreciate it much more than people that are born here because we take so much for granted, right? And and also, like, I have 3 kids, and they sometimes will complain about that their iPod or iPad is out of battery, and it's a meltdown. And I said, really? Let me tell you some true stories of struggling, okay? Let's keep things in perspective, right? And but Hamsa, would love to have you, kind of tell us your journey from where you came from in Iraq and what happened there, what brought you to America, and then we'll let that lead up to Small Giants.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. So, like you mentioned, I was born in Baghdad, Iraq. Oh, well, back in 1979. So there goes.
There goes your age. It's okay.
And so we grew up there. Obviously with my family, and we left in 1991, and so that was during the Persian Gulf War. My family, actually, my parents were supposed to leave back in 78, 79, right around when I was born, because my mom's family all left Iraq and immigrated to the States, and she was the last one to sort of follow. And unfortunately, the Iran-Iraq war started, and borders were closed, and so my mom was stuck behind. And so they stayed behind, and they built their family, but sort of the hope was always that we would leave our country and come to the States and sort of reunite with my mom's family. So I just remember growing up, my mom would always tell us stories about, coming to America and what it would be like to live here. And so it was just this like dream of ours. So then 1991, the Persian Gulf War starts. And so like, we thought like this was another setback. We don't know if we're going to be able to leave. And eventually my parents realized that, it's probably better for our futures to finally make the track to the country. So we fled during the war. So me, my mom, and my 2 brothers left, and my dad was actually stuck behind for. So basically, the story there is he got stuck behind because they withdrew some of his documents because of the sort of father of the family, and the household is not able to leave. Maybe the family wouldn't leave either. But after a couple of months of him working through a bunch of different avenues, he ends up getting his stuff back, and rightly so. And then eventually, joins us in Jordan. So we were in Jordan for about 6 or 7 months, trying to get all our documents together. And we eventually then move out to California. So we arrived in San Diego, California on Christmas Day, 1991.
Wow. And you're if I'm doing the math correctly, you're about 21, 22 years old at that time?
12.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking. All right. Yeah. Obviously, yeah. I'm a podcaster and not a mathematician. So 7. I was thinking 16. Okay. So.
Yes.
All right. Excellent. So you are 12. So what an experience for a 12-year-old. I mean, most 12-year-olds are, they're watching their favorite TV show and they're trying to find clothes that they like and hang out with friends and be cool. You're moving from the country that you grew up in so far to Jordan, Correct. To California, not speaking the language. So right. Do you have clear memories of what you were going through as a 12-year-old?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So, there was, of course, a lot of happiness because we got to see our family and, we're finally here in America and how wonderful. And California was beautiful. And, but at the same time, I was like, school was very important to me and education was very important to me, even at that age. And so I enrolled in a school that was, the system there was all year round. So you'd go to school for 2 months, you're off for a month. And so like I started and they had already started and I came in like halfway through the year. And so that was like kind of awkward. And then I didn't speak any English at all. And that was like really awkward. And so I was really lost for a good year. I just, I'd go to class. I just had no idea what was happening. Oftentimes, and I was like really shy at that time because I couldn't communicate. So I would just sit sort of in the back. And I think like really the only thing that I could sort of get by in was math. Because math is a universal language, and because also the math we studied back home was sort of more advanced than here. And so like, at least that's the thing that I could do and feel good about. So I really spend that time after being in school during the days, I'd come home and I just spend a lot of time learning English. So I'd just translate a bunch of books and try to read. And literally I would translate every word until I got to a good place after 6 to 8 months where I wouldn't have to translate every word. And so that was a lot of struggles, just trying to understand what was happening around me. Yeah.
So Wow. And so impressive that, you were just able to get through that time period and really, really excel. And you found out what your natural strengths are at that time, which was math, and kind of focus on that. And so that you could gain some, I'll say, some confidence to help you move forward in some of the other areas as well.
Yeah.
So flash forward a little bit, you go to college, and so you end up moving to Detroit. You went to, I believe, State, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. And you majored in mathematics.
I did. Yeah, I loved math. And so I continued with that. And then I ended up in business school. So then I did my MBA after my undergrad, and sort of focused in on management and the people aspect of things, so HR. And then I ended up working at the business school where I did my MBA because there was an opportunity for an international student advisor, the first one they had created at that school. And I thought, oh, how exciting to be able to work with students who come into the US. And most of the time, this was their first sort of point of entry is into these programs. So I got to do that for about 9 years, 6 years specifically in that program, and then another 3 years running student services. But it was really an incredible time being able to help probably over 400 students.
Wow.
Come to the US and study for, some undergrad, some grad, then helping them assimilate into the country, and then find work and all of that. So it was really, really incredible experience.
That is excellent. So before we move on to the small giants, your current role, just a question, having come to America and getting used to, they say you can't see the forest through the trees. And now, you're in our forest and you're able to see the trees, right? And, you are an American, we, welcoming you with hugs and everybody loves you.
Yeah.
But what do you see, coming from another country, that is just different, that Americans don't appreciate about being here, that just maybe we take for granted?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wow, that's a good question. So first of all, I feel like this is home now, because I've lived more of my life here in the US than back home. Obviously, there's something still very special in my heart for my home country, but this is home. And I feel that we are just incredibly lucky. So besides being and living in Iraq, I've traveled to other places, and I just feel like when I come here, especially when I come back to Detroit, I just feel like, what an incredible place. I mean, we have so many freedoms that we just, don't even think about and are not like acknowledging on a daily basis. We have so many opportunities here in this country. Like, my family came here, they basically left everything behind. Like, we left our home, we left our belongings, they left their money, they left everything. And they were able to literally start from zero in this country and build their lives. They worked very hard. So not to like belittle any of that. They worked extremely hard. And I don't even know how they did it, with 3 little kids and, so they worked extremely hard, but they were able to make a living for themselves and a nice one, right? And support their family. And then we've all, grown up to like follow our dreams. And so I just feel like that's a really incredible thing that I don't know where else you could do that besides really in this amazing country. Yeah.
No, that's great. Well, and I think it's important to hear that, because obviously with the current political situation, people are very, very polarized, and I try not to watch the news anymore. And of course it's hard to stay away from social media, but there's a lot of anger. There's a lot of complaining. And, if that's all you read and listened to, you would think America is a really terrible place, right? Because everyone's bringing out the negatives. But I think it's great to hear, your story, because at the end of the day, let's face it, it's still a incredible country where right. People, if they want to, they can focus, they can work hard, and they can make something of themselves. And, pretty much no one's going to stop them, based on who they are. Right. And
exactly. Right.
And so I think it's still a beautiful place because of that. My father-in-law is from Sicily. He grew up there, came here, and he had promised his father-in-law that he would make some money in America and come back to Sicily, right? Mm-hmm. Because his father-in-law got mad at him and said, "You're taking my daughter away." And he goes, "Oh, I'm just going to make some money. I'll come back." And he kept his promise. He made some money in America, and he mm-hmm. learned the bottling business. And he went back to Sicily, and he tried for 3 years to just get the paperwork approved. And this is the early 80s and still a little, we'll say a little corruption going on, but still 3 years could not just get the paperwork to start a business, right? Where in America, literally, I have an idea right now at 10 a.m. and I could go into the city of Rochester. You can go to Detroit. We can get our DBA, doing business as for here in Rochester, it's $33. And by the end of the day, I have my business, right? In America. So he came back. He ended up coming back and, pissing some people off, but came back and started a business, right? And I still think the freedoms and the infrastructure of what we have here needs to be appreciated. So that's why I love stories like that, just to help people who are born here and just really keep things in perspective about how blessed and fortunate we are, and just stop complaining, everybody. Come on. Let's talk about the good stuff, right?
Yeah. And I think even when you mentioned the situation, the political situation, we still have choices, and we have the ability to, we can make decisions in terms of who our politicians are, and we can actively participate and we can vote. I mean, there's a lot of countries that can't say that. There's a lot of people that wake up every day to a government that they didn't sign up for, they have to be okay with. That's another thing that's really beautiful in this country. And, there's a president comes into power. Okay. You may not agree with him. Okay. He's got 4 years, and then you can make a change. So
make a new one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just feel like we have so many choices and opportunities, and that's just it's really amazing.
Well, the best thing is we could choose what record we play in our brain, in our mind, right? And so I choose the happy record, right? I choose the good attitude and the, global positive impact record. And I'm in a country where I can make that happen if I want to, right?
Exactly.
Some people choose the record of like, the Eeyore, woe is me record. That's their choice. My feeling is happiness is a choice. So, and we're in America, we can make it happen. So
agreed.
Well, thank you for that. And yeah, you totally, you've been here for, like you said, most of your life at this point. And so glad that you are a integrated, positive member of our society. And I'm so glad I met you.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you were born. So thanks for being born.
Thank you.
So now I want to talk about what you're doing now, Small Giants Community.
Yes.
I'll just start out. Some of my listeners know this because I talk about the book. So, but just to give a little recap, about 11 years ago, I read a book called Small Giants, written by Bo Burlingham, one of my favorite people in the world. Hi, Bo, if you're watching or listening. And so it changed my business life at that time. It was about people who were definitely wanted to grow and definitely cared about finances, but didn't want to sacrifice what got them excited about being in business in the first place in order to grow, meaning they didn't want to sacrifice their culture. They didn't want to sacrifice their process and procedures that made them successful and their what made them happy about owning a business, right? So it was like it was purposeful growth. That's probably the best way to describe it. Yeah. And loved it. And I was the freak that called like everybody in the book that Bo profiled. I called Norm Brodsky. I called Ari Weinswig. I mean, I just called everybody in the book. And hey, can I meet you? And I'm still friends with Ari to this day, and Norm, and a lot of the others. Jay Goltz is a friend of mine. And so what happened is I ended up calling Bo, and I told Bo what I did. And instead of thinking that I was a crazy stalker, he was actually amused that I did that. And then coincidentally, I was in Norm Brodsky's office in New York, who was featured in the book. And Bo walks in, because Bo writes his column with him. And Bo walks in, and I am like a 1960s teenager who just is meeting Beatles. I'm like, oh my God, it's Bo Burlingham. So excited. And we became fast friends. But the book has changed my life. A couple of years after that, Paul Spiegelman, who obviously you know well, and he was on my podcast about 5 episodes ago. Paul was a version of me who loved the book as well, Small Giants, and actually called Bo and had the idea to start a Small Giants community. So getting people together that have this sense of purpose and sense of thinking about growing their business, the Small Giants philosophies. And he came to Bo and said, let's start a community. Had a couple of meetings. There was a big kickoff. I don't know how long ago, 6, 7, 8 years ago now, in Detroit at Ari's place in Zingerman's training facility. I was there. Rob Dubay was there. Marissa, a lot of the people were there. Paul, of course, ran it. And and it really, that was the spark that created the Small Giants community, which now I want to kind of give the baton to you, but it really has grown into a thriving, self-sufficient, independent business, non-for-profit business, right? That you are at the helm, right? So tell us a little bit about how you got to be at the helm, if you don't mind, and then kind of give us the scoop on Small Giants, please.
Yeah, it's so wonderful, and thank you for sharing the stories of how you got to be involved. So basically, I was actually Rob Dubay was a mentor of mine and a great friend. So I was an integrator at a company, so EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System. I was running operations at a software company in Detroit, and after 4 great years, I was looking for a new opportunity. And Rob Dubay said, you may want to check out this community. It's, all about purpose-driven leadership. And I thought, oh, this is so exciting. It's very much what I'm really passionate about. And so I end up getting connected with Paul. I have a phone conversation, and then he says, want to come down to Dallas? Let's have an in-person meeting. So I said, great. So I remember I went down there on December 2nd, a couple of years ago. And then, a couple of weeks later, I'm starting in the Small Giants community. So I think I was excited about really 2 things. One, to be able to, just be surrounded by these incredible leaders who are really passionate about their people and their communities. I thought that was just an amazing opportunity that I couldn't pass up. And I think the second exciting thing was that the community had been around for a while. There was a really strong foundation. There was just some incredible members who were a part of it, but it really had this opportunity, and it was at this sort of, Paul really wanted to take it to the next level, and I really was excited about his vision. So I thought it would be really awesome to sort of take it to the next level. So that's when I sort of came in. It's been about 2.5 years. It's been an incredible ride. Of course, just, the people you mentioned, being able to learn from Paul and from Bo and all those guys, it's been amazing. But essentially, we are a community where we identify, connect, and develop purpose-driven leaders. We do that in a variety of ways. We bring a lot of them together once a year through the annual summit. And we always sort of describe the annual summit as the best way to be introduced to the community from a content perspective, from seeing the members' perspective, and just experiences. So it's a couple of days of lots of sharing of stories and interactive workshops, and we share all the experiences together from morning to evening, and we share every meal together. So it's just a really special event once a year for a few days. So that's a really awesome way to be introduced to the community. We also have, we produce a lot of content, and our content is produced in collaboration with our members. And the content is really focused on sharing best practices. So just as you read in the book and people get excited about the philosophy in the book, we sort of take that to the next level by showing leaders how to do this in their business. So learning about vision, purpose, and values, and what does it mean to live those day to day in your organization. Or we talk a lot about all sorts of cultural initiatives. We talk about financial transparency and open book management. So we just share all of that in a variety of content channels. So, blogs and ebooks and podcasts with Paul Spiegelman. And also we do monthly webinars where we're also sharing these best practices. And then we sort of have 2 other ways in which people can get involved in the community. And so we do virtual peer groups. Those are great for sort of number 1, number 2 in the organization. So founder, co-founder. And it's sort of that personal board of advisors that you meet with on a monthly basis. We use Zoom, actually, just like we're talking through now. And they are facilitated conversations, and they're really great also for sharing best practices, but more importantly, so you can work through business challenges, because as we know, we all have them. And this is just a great way to meet with other like-minded leaders and work through those. And then the most exciting thing that we have going on right now is the Leadership Academy, which is a 1-year certification program for small giant leaders. And it's really a way to share and also teach you ways in which you can institutionalize the practices of being a small giant. So it's a combination of virtual and in person, and it's cohort learning. So you'll be typically with about 8 to 10 people in this program. And that's kicking off this October. So we're really excited about that.
Excellent. Well, congratulations. Yeah. You're bringing it to a whole new crazy good level.
Yeah, thank you. We have an awesome team, so it's really exciting.
I love it. Spoken like a true leader. Yeah. You are the best. So a new, I think it was last year now, Bo introduced a kind of a Small Giants 2.0 book, right? Kind of an updated Small Giants book, which I've read, and he sent me a signed copy. So I'm still like the Beatles fan, you know. And so for our listeners wondering a little bit more about Small Giants, so they could go to smallgiantscommunity.org, correct?
Exactly. Yep.
And
smallgiants.org. Yep.
Okay, so just smallgiants.org, right? Okay. And but they'll probably Google it anyway, so you'll come up. And so the big question is, though, what, who kind of is your client avatar, your client persona of somebody who should be thinking about joining Small Giants?
Yeah. So sort of two audiences. I mean, typically we get founder, co-founder in an organization who is purpose-driven, who is values-driven, who's looking for a group of like-minded leaders, and who's also looking to really institutionalize these practices in their business and or scale their business while really sort of protecting the culture. And then we also are seeing sort of what we call the next generation of leaders. So we have a lot of founders, co-founders who've been with the community for a long time, who've been sort of living and breathing this stuff. They firmly believe in their heart and their mind that this is the best way to run a sustainable business. But they're now really investing in their next generation of leaders, and they're kind of grooming them to eventually maybe take over the business and or just lead, the company. And so we're seeing a lot more sort of interest in that level of leadership. And they could get involved in things, like the Leadership Academy. So those are sort of, and then in terms of, we see a diversity of industries and company sizes, but I would say the sort of the average is typically, around 10 to 20 million in revenue. Typically they're established businesses. They've been around for at least 5 years or more. But we see, again, like I said, all types of industries. So, yeah.
And then that's 5, 10, 20 million. So, the word Small Giants is a little deceiving because these companies aren't necessarily small.
Right. Exactly.
Not, maybe some are doing 500,000, but a lot of them are. So it's more of a mindset that, they want to grow from 10 to 20 million, but they don't want to have to, like we talked about, sacrifice, why they got into business, the culture.
Exactly.
For me, I remember I wanted to start a business. My first business way back in 1995 was my first business, Next Step. And, I remember why I wanted to start a business. And it was two reasons. I wanted to start something from scratch. I wanted to invent something. And then I wanted to be in control of it. And not because I'm a, control freak, but I did want to control the standards, right? The quality of the product we put out. But more importantly, I wanted to I wanted to control the culture. I really wanted to treat, the team the way I thought they deserved to be treated, which really is like a team. Everyone is bringing something to the table. And, my goal was to say, I don't have to be the smartest person in the room. In fact, if I am the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room. And how can I elevate everybody and grow them so that they're happy and reaching their potential? And of course, it's the best thing for the company. And I remember, working for some other companies in the past, and it wasn't always about that. It wasn't always about the culture. It wasn't always about the quality of the product. It was about really a lot of times the shortcut to profits. And that didn't make me feel good. So I think, I was joking with Paul on my podcast that, so here in Rochester, we have a company headquartered called Wegmans, which is an incredible, grocery store all over the Northeast now, 105 years old. And they've always put the team first since day one. And so I call them a small giant. So the revenues are $9 billion.
Wow. Yeah.
But it's still 100% owned by the family. I mean, how many 100% family-owned companies have achieved $9 billion in revenue?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Not many. But it's because they've acted like, I'll say, a small giant the whole time, right? They never sacrificed what they thought was very important to them about growing their company. And so they're kind of a small, big giant, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's wonderful. And I'm sure there's a lot of other stories like that. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Hamsa, thank you so much. I do like to keep these interviews about a half hour because the average entrepreneur has kind of a short attention span. I know Rob Dubay likes to go 90 minutes, and that's Rob though. That's Rob. It's like Chill Out with Rob podcast, right? But So I really want to thank you so much for your time and so much for what you're doing. And I saw you a couple of months ago in Detroit, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again when I will come to the conference this year.
Yes, we would love to have you, and I really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we leave, Hamsa, if people do want to get in touch with you and once again, Small Giants, what is the best way?
Yeah. So they could, visit our site, smallgiants.org. They can also drop us a note at hello@smallgiants.org, and then we'll be happy to chat with them.
Excellent. You're all over social media and all that good stuff too, right?
Of course, definitely.
All right, Hamsa. Well, thank you so much. And once again, congratulations on everything, your journey and all the great work you're doing. And once again, so glad you were born.
Thank you so much, David. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Avanti listeners. Appreciate you listening, watching the show. And we'll be back, of course, very, very soon with a new great show. In the meantime, if you want to hear this again and other interviews that I've had, go to AvantiEntrepreneurGroup.com. Thank you so much, and have an awesome day. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. Head over to AvantiEntrepreneurGroup.com for show notes and more helpful advice from entrepreneurs like you. Continue to find your entrepreneurial rhythm at the Avanti Entrepreneur Podcast.